people ask the question of who I am, and I have discovered that I am my values. Who I am today, or who I'm trying to become today, is the single value of integrity. Where it all begins, it begins in Nicaragua. The birthplace was Managua, Nicaragua. I grew up in the central mountains of Nicaragua in a little town called Huigalpa, Chontales. I call it the town of the view of $1 million, right? Beautiful mountains, beautiful valley. That's the genesis, but really the genesis begins with my grandmothers. Mama Fina was the name of the mama, mother, fine mother, was my mother's mom. In third grade education, dirt floors. Grandpa died and left her with 7 young girls in an environment that, for all intents and purposes, they should have been no more than maids. But my grandmother, believing that they needed to raise those young girls out of that extreme poverty, traded her labor with people of means and got those young girls to, through education, got them out of extreme poverty. On the other side, my grandmother, Eva, right, also a woman of amazing strength, and she used to sell food at the market, right? So those two women, that is the genesis. My mother raised me by herself. My dad was a free spirit, I should say, in and out of my life. And so the genesis for Juan Teran is Managua, Nicaragua. Came to this country at the age of 16, escaping war. And today here I am in beautiful Pleasant Hill, Iowa, enjoying what this country has afforded me all these years. All the dots are connected. It would be tough to believe that today the country in Nicaragua is it's in political turmoil. It's been in political turmoil forever and ever. And on my father's side, one of the founders of the movement that rules the country today, Carlos Fonseca Amador, was married to Maria de Teran, who is a close cousin, first cousin of my father. My mother, having raised from poverty, was a supporter of the movement that changed the course of the country when the Sandinista movement overthrew the president who had been there for 50 years, the family. And so, unfortunately, things did not work out as what she thought, right? And then the civil war that ensued after 1979 into the 80s, right? It forced mothers to send kids like me at the age of 16. It was the time where we had to enter into military service, and my mother just didn't see that was what she wanted for her only child. I had to emigrate. It's something that I wasn't planning in my life, but that was the nature of the transition, literally just to save my life. At the age of 16, we were going through tremendous stress. I've been through tear gas. I've been through martial law. I've been through guns, machine guns pointing at you. I've been through just eating sugar with water, right? Because there's nothing else. I have suffered the loss of friends of mine who went into the mountains of Nicaragua only to come back in body bags. So it was a stressful time. So yeah, for me, the idea of coming to the United States was always a dream, right? But not under those circumstances. And so leaving the country, bittersweet, right? I never thought that to leave the country meant that I would never see my mother again, right? Because that happened later on, but it was bittersweet. One of the most powerful moments in my life, at the airport, my mother, wanting to give me strength, she said, Well, in the morning, literally, when the day off, she said 3 words. She said, despierta. Despierta means wake up. Levántate means arise, right? And then she said, ánimo, which means gather your strength, right? Gather your strength. And so at the airport, she sort of repeated the same words. And she said, when you walk through that door, don't look back, right? Not too long ago, I went through a meditation exercise, and the gentleman was guiding us through the breathing in and breathing out, and he was asking us to breathe in and then find the thing that was holding us back, and then as we exhale, bring the air through our heart into the back of our brain, and then exhale out the thing that was holding us back or down. And I thought that through that exercise I was going to forgive myself for not having gone back to Nicaragua when my mother died. I couldn't go back to her funeral because we had in the middle of war. She died when I was 19. I came here when I was 16. At the age of 19, she passed away. And so I thought that through the exercise I was going to forgive myself for not having gone back to that funeral, to that moment. But in my exercise, what I was able to do through releasing pain, I was able to go back to that moment when at the airport, and I was able in my mind to turn around and hug my mother. Yeah, and so, yeah, that was powerful moment, and that just happened at the moment. Gosh, when I stepped on American soil, it was a wow moment. It was a wow moment. We had to ask the United States a couple of times to allow us to come here legally. That did not occur. And so my mother had to do what, many hundreds of thousands of people have done. We had to ask Mexico for permission to go to Mexico. And so Mexico, Tamaulipas, Monterrey, and, a day like today, sun setting, the majesty of the Rio Grande. I've seen that at the age of 16, and to the other side. And so when I crossed over the river, I went to a little town called Santa Cruz, and not much different than Nicaragua, to tell you the truth. And so, but the next day I was taken over to a town called McAllen, and the guy that was helping me says, if you can pass that gate, you'll be fine. And so I went to the gate, and the guy tapped me on the shoulder and showed me his badge, immigration. And luckily my mother had put me to learn some English prior to my journey. And so he said, where are you coming from? And I said, I understood that. And I said, Santa Cruz. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Dallas. And he said, well, have a nice trip. And I said, well, thank you. And I think he knew. Right? I think that officer knew. There's no way that he didn't know, right? How I looked and right? I think he knew. But I think he also maybe had compassion, right? Maybe he said, oh, this is a good kid, right? At least he's speaking English. And so he gave me a pass. But landing in Dallas and seeing an airport like Dallas, and then walking out of the airport in Dallas and seeing these humongous buildings and expressways and things I've never seen before, all I could do was say, wow. All I could do was like, wow, I cannot believe I'm here. That was elation. That was like, wow. And the biggest thought was, I'm safe. I had some people that were expecting me, and I had an address in my pocket. I went outside. I had instructions to go outside of the airport, raise my hand, and, a taxi showed up, and, a gentleman showed him my address, and he asked me to get in, and gave me a beautiful tour of Dallas, and he took me to the address, and it literally took my last hour, Incidentally, the next day, the people that were there took me to the airport, and it only took 5 minutes, so, my first lesson in capitalism. But And then after that, I went to Milwaukee. That's where my family lived. My journey took me to Miami, and there to get some kind of documents, refugee status, that sort of things. And my first job was at La Carreta in Miami, and bus boy. And the gentleman who gave me the job said, "Hey, we're going to pay you $2 an hour. Right? You're going to work from 6 a.m. in the morning till 6 o'clock in the afternoon, because it's a coffee restaurant, 24/7." And so I did the math. I'm like, wow, 2 times 12 is $24. In Nicaragua, the average income in those days was $100. I thought to myself, they're going to pay me $24 in a day. What a country. What a country. Then he said the magic words, "We're going to feed you also 1 meal a day." And then he said, "All the soda you can drink." I'm a winner. I was winning at the age of 16, yes. The journey took me back to Wisconsin. There I went to high school. Mrs. Graham, Mrs. Kurt, a number of people that immediately took me in church, Sister Kathy. And it's always been women in my life. And they took me in and they protected me. That led me to a seminary. Sister Kathy kind of guided me in that direction, plus my mom wanted me to be there. And it was at the age of 19 that when my mother died, I had a conversation with God, and I said, I think it's unfair what you've done. And I left, I say I left a broken human being that day. It's been some journey. It has been some journey. When I was going to quit the car business, I was literally begging for food, right? Gas station next door, no money. And I went to my boss and I said, "Look, I gotta quit. I can't make it." And he said, "Well, don't quit today, quit tomorrow." And he reached in the desk and he said, "I want you to listen to this." He gave me a cassette. "I want you to listen to this cassette. Half of it on the way home, half of it on the way back." And I had nothing to lose. Right? So I did that, and the cassette was "See You at the Top" by Zig Ziglar.
Dreams are absolutely critical if we're really going to be successful in life. The only difference is you dream with your eyes wide open and not while you're sound asleep only. The difference between a dream and a goal is simply a goal is a dream with a deadline.
Every word he had was, I could hear my name on it, right? "Hey, Juan, just change your mind, change your words, change your thoughts, change your behavior." He said something powerful that day. He said, "You may not have a father, but you have a heavenly Father. And you're a child of God, That's quite an inheritance you got there. See to it that you live up to it." And the next day I went to my boss and said, "Hey, I'm not quitting." And Jeremy took me here. You asked a good question. He used to say, we got to work on 5 things. We got to work on our spiritual connection, our spiritual health. We got to work on our mental health. We got to work on our emotional health. We got to work on our physical health. And then we got to work on our financial health. And the question is, how do I get here? I forgot about the first 4. And I focused on the financial health. And in that journey to the top, I destroyed everything in my path. My first marriage, my relationship with my boy, relationship with friends. Been a lot of destruction. And then God, right? And I did achieve beyond my wildest dreams, success, companies, monies, homes, cars, trips, Rolexes, you name it, right? Things that they don't matter. They really don't. But then God kind of shook me a couple of years back, and I lost it all. And then I went through a transition, a 2-year transition of, I call it decompression, not depression. I call it decompression. And in that journey, I kept on asking myself, was it worth it? Everything I did, right? All the hours, the obsession with success, the obsession with money, was it worth it? And of course, the answer was no. The answer was no. It's not worth it to ruin your family. It's not worth it to ruin your relationship with your son. It's not worth it. On November 6th of last year, or actually, I should say on December 31st of last year, I spent 2 years tied to a couch, just staring at the TV. I thought I was going to die. I gained 72 pounds in that process. In 2020, I only bathed 10 times. I was fed through the love of my wife today, Ilona. Cannot believe that she stayed with me through that journey. And I was ready to do the unthinkable last year. The thought of my wife finding me, having done the unthinkable, it stopped me. But last year on December 31st, I had a conversation with my son, and I told him, I said, please forgive me for, what I've done to you, and I'm dying, and I need you to forgive me. And he said, man, that's a big ask. That's a huge ask. I wasn't ready for that question, so let me think about it, and I'll call you back. And so he called me on my birthday, and he said, I've thought about what you asked. And he said, I am not the sporting guy that you think I am. You and my mom always put me on sports. I'm more of a geek. I like to read and like to write. And so I went home and I wrote out my feelings for you. I had to write out. I had to really understand, what do I feel for you? And so he said, I recall that when I was 6 years old, I recall that I used to wait for you, right, until whenever you came home. And I used to run out of my room, right, when I heard the garage door. And I remember the feeling, right? And I remember that feeling is that I loved you. And he said to me, you don't know this, but when I was 16, I fell in love, right? And so I know what it is to fall in love with somebody. And he said, so now that you've asked me, right, to forgive you, I realized that when you left, when I was 6 years old, you left me to go find success and riches. And you never came back. Well, you broke me, right? You devalued me. And all of that became anger and eventually became hate, right? And he said, I'm numb, right? And I don't want to feel this way anymore. So he says, I've had to ask myself, the question is, what do I feel for you? What do I still feel for you? And he says, I discovered that under the rubble of pain that you've caused me, I still love you. I'm still in love with you. Now, my son is very cautious with his words. And he said, I would like you to be my father. I would like you to be my friend. But you have to stop hurting me. And those words got me out of a 2-year depression, onto a new journey, onto trying to rebuild my life, but now with a sense of purpose. And the purpose is now super, 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 super clear. In the past, I went to Nicaragua. I put a company in Nicaragua trying to support the growth of women in honor of my mother, in honor of my grandmothers. I spoke of them earlier. Today, I'm more hyper-focused on that. In this home here, right, it's not, this home is a gift really from God, right? And I'm here in this home because I believe that my wife deserves it. I believe that we deserve it. I believe that we need to, as Zig Ziglar used to say, we don't have to start well, but we have to finish well. There's a project I'm involved with. It's called the 1,000 Warrior Project. And what that is my wife and I, we decided to, give back. Or actually, I should say, what I discovered in my 2-year depression is my dog Lila was there with me all along, helping me breathe. And I would talk to my dog in those 2 years, and I would look at my dog in the eye and I would say, Lila, what's wrong with me? Why am I in this journey, right? And I discovered later on that, Lila would look at me, and if Lila would have been able to talk, right, she would have said, hey, it's me. I'm here. God, right? I'm taking care of you. I'm helping you breathe. I have you. I got you, right? So through the concept of looking at people in the eye and understanding that when you are looking at me, it's God looking at me, right? When I understand that God speaks through you, right? For example, I have ceased to seek God out there. I see God in the retina of your eyes. I hear God. If you're speaking to me from a position of spirit, I hear God through you, right? And so everything what I have received from people, right, is that there's a mission that I must accomplish, and that mission takes me back to Nicaragua. When you connect the dots, when you connect the grandmothers, and when you connect Mom, Billion, and when you connect my aunts, and when you connect all the women that have helped me in my journey, when you connect the fact that the woman that saved my life, my wife, when you connect that, my wife worked for an organization called PEO. It was founded in Iowa, 7 women. Today there are 300,000 of them, and they support each other with education. As a matter of fact, a pin of the PEO organization went to the moon and back. It's in the museum in PEO. So I hear God saying, hey, remember how your mom, right, got out of poverty through education? How about if you put all the experience that I put you through, right, and help me, right? This is God saying that to me, right? Do the same for 1,000 women in Nicaragua. Let's not go for 100,000. Let's see if we can do 1,000. So with my company now, which just started as let's go resell some stuff and let's see if we can make some money, right? Through that company today, what we do is we educate. We started with one, right? We started with one. We found one young girl that was down to 1 meal a day, right? And in a situation that was dire. And we said, we're going to bring her in. We're going to educate her. We're going to teach her what we know. And we see if she can learn graphic design, Facebook, email marketing, all the things that we do, right, in our company. And she worked hard, and she did it. She's doing it. So we said, let's see if we can replicate that, right? Let's bring another 5. And so the next 5 graduated, and they're saying, wow, somebody's willing to give us an opportunity? Yeah, we'll take that, right? And so now the next 10 are in, and we're preparing for the next 20. And I only pray, I pray to God, right, that to give me the strength, to give me the help, to complete the mission I've been given, which is 1,000. They're called 1,000 warriors. That's the purpose of my life, I would say. That's the purpose of my existence. That's the purpose of my, what I'm here to do. Zig Ziglar used to say, the philosophy is that you can get whatever you want in life if you only help enough people get what they want, right? And so I hear God saying, go do that. In this country, everything's done, right? Go back home, go back to Nicaragua, the place where I put you through, and get this mission done, get that done. So that's the journey I'm in right now. It's not the final chapter, it's a prelude, right, to the final chapter. And I hope and pray to God that that I finish well. I know that I will see you at the top. I know I will see you at the top. This book is not about being at the top of success. This book is about being at the top, right with God. The truth is that I was homeless not too long ago. The truth is that I was homeless not too long ago, right? The truth is that the 2 years that I went through the depression with my wife, right, put a stress in our lives that almost tore us apart, right? And in that I had a home in Wisconsin, my beautiful home that I built with my own hands, right? Like literally chopped a lot, wood lot with a machete, because I didn't have a machine to do, and I was trying to validate myself, right, through a beautiful home. In the middle of my depression, that put stress on our marriage. It almost tore us apart. And I had sold my home. And at a point where we were so stressed with my wife, right, it was a moment that we said, maybe we would take a time apart. And in that window, I didn't have a home. Yeah. And so why this house? Because once again, all the dots are connected. When I came here and I met a gentleman who built this home, who builds home, I came here in 2008. A friend of mine asked me, hey, come on out and we're gonna turn some businesses around and we're gonna make a lot of money. And I was in this journey to the top, and a friend of mine says, hey, come and help me. I left family, right? Friends. I left everything behind to come and help a friend. I met a guy that came into the dealership and said, hey, I used to be in the car business and I also build homes. Then the recession happened, right? And he said, would you like to buy my condo? I have a condo, right? Beautiful condo. I've been trying to validate my life, right? Through material things. So, Glen Oaks, Iowa. And so I used to go to the right, and I used to go, that's Glen Oaks. Someday I'm going to live there because that's going to validate me. And here comes the gentleman who owns a condo there. And he said, would you like to? I said, sure, let's do it, right? Well, eventually what brought me here came apart, right? And in that journey, in that painful journey, I had to release that beautiful place, which kind of looked like this anyways. Fast forward the tape, back to the fact that I met someone here, married her, went through depression, tore us apart, and then there was a point this year that I was without a home. Homeless, not a roof over my head, right? Of course means, right, had some money, I could go to a hotel, right? But I had no home. And so I prayed to God and I said to my wife, we have to get together. When I was at a hotel and I said, God, are you testing me? Are you testing me? What do you need from me, right? And I said to him, I will prove to you, to God, I said, I prove to you that I'm going to be faithful to you. And I'm going to be faithful to you through my wife. And nothing's going to tear us out. And so I finally convinced her, I said, listen, we got to get back together. We got to get a home. And I said, nobody's ever going to build us a home, other than Mark Keister, the guy that I met here many, many months ago. So I called Mark and I said, Mark, sell me a home or build me a home. I called my good friend and I said, should I be building a home right now? And she said, no, you should be building a home inside. And I heard that. But then I said, man, I got to step on a leap of faith. Because the good book, yes, this book is amazing, but the good book says, faith, right, is believing in things yet not seen. Right? Believing things yet not seen. So I called Mark and said, Mark, let's build a home for my wife, for my family. Let's build a home. And I went to his house, a beautiful home. And he said, no. He says, my home, my original home is for sale. And we came here, we looked at it, and my wife fell in love with it. And I had said to God, I promise I'm going to be faithful to you through my wife. And you know, funny thing is, I went to my bank. My bank, I've been since 18. I was 18 years old when I started putting money into this bank. And during the 2-year depression, I had to sell my business. Everything collapsed. So I went to my bank and I said, hey, can you give me a loan for a home? This is a home I need. There was a lady that looked at it and she says, well, boy, you sold your home. So you sold your business. And yeah, that's good that you sold your business. You got this chunk, but your business is not generating any money, right? Because you just came off 2-year depression. So where's the cash flow? And I said, ma'am, can you not look at that? Can you find a way to put it together? And she goes, it would just take too much money to do it. A bank that I've been with since the age of 18. So, but I had promised to my wife, I said, look, we're gonna get this on no matter what, right? So I went to a local bank here, the Rating Credit Union in Iowa. I recommend it highly. And I met a gentleman, his name was John, and I said, John, you need to tell me what it takes to put a deal together. And he did, and we're here. And so why am I here is because I promised God that I would be faithful to him through my wife, and that nothing, no matter what, right, that keeping my marriage together this time around, right, was a proof of my faith to him. And God rewards the faithful. That's why we're here. My legacy to my great-great-great-grandchildren, because this is what this is for, to my great-great-great-grandchildren. I just think that perseverance. It's not my legacy, perhaps. Here's a belief. Here's a belief system. Through the failures, and I have many. There's no time in this little video to tell you how many times I have failed this year alone, right? The mistakes I've continued to make, brutal, right? The pain I haven't resolved, right? The things I'm still working on. And the only message I like to leave for my great-great-great-grandchildren, right, is you're gonna have to find out whose child you are. Who do you descend from, right? It's not me. You come from an origin. You come from the source, right, which is God, right? And the legacy is this, right, that if you believe in God, and I happen to believe in this man, Jesus Christ, right, that if you happen to believe in that man also, right, there is a great example that you can fall 3 times. But if you get up, right, you can finish well, right? And the reward is amazing.